Hi guys, I'm Nina. Welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, welcome. I do videos on motherhood and lifestyle content. Today's video is very near and dear to my heart because I'm going to be sharing my very unexpected birth story with Jaden. I had certain expectations in my head for his birth, and honestly nothing went as I was expecting or as I had planned. So originally I was supposed to be induced at 39 weeks, but I asked my doctor to wait at least until 40 weeks and to schedule an induction because I wanted to give my body time to possibly go into labor on its own. But at 40 weeks and a day, I had still not gone into labor. So my induction was scheduled for 12 midnight that day, and I was supposed to arrive at the hospital at 10 p.m., which I really actually liked the idea of having an induction scheduled because I was able to mentally and even physically prepare for giving birth instead of it being like a surprise or in the middle of the night. I was able to spend the day really just like meditating, praying, relaxing, preparing myself for labor. There were some things that I did that I will share later that I felt like actually really helped induce my labor naturally and helped me to have a really fast labor. So I spent the day just preparing myself. My husband went to work that day. I was able to sleep in. I took a nice long hot shower before we went to the hospital. I also ate a good meal since I knew that once the process started, I wasn't going to be allowed to eat at the hospital. So I ate a big meal. I took a hot shower. I even did my hair and put on just a little bit of makeup just so I felt refreshed and I felt prepared for what was about to come, even though I had no idea what was about to come. So we arrived to the hospital at 10 p.m. Took us a little bit of time. We got checked in, got settled into the room, and the plan was for me to do 4 doses of something called Cytotec, which is kind of like Pitocin, but it's a more mild version of the drug. So the plan was for me to take it every 4 hours, 4 doses, and then in the morning around 10 or 11 to start Pitocin, depending on how my contractions were going at that point. So I took the first dose of Cytotec around midnight, and I immediately started feeling some contractions. They were very, very mild. They were not painful at all, but I could see them on the monitors. I could see my contractions coming and just very minimal waves. I had my yoga ball with me, so the first few hours I spent just bouncing on the yoga ball, kind of resting in the bed a little bit. I was honestly so excited because I knew that we were going to be meeting Jaden soon, so I couldn't sleep. My husband was exhausted because he worked a full work week that week, so he was resting. He knew that he had some time before everything kicked in, so he was taking some time and resting. I was too excited and I wanted to help the baby come as fast as possible, so I was on the yoga ball, and my night nurse checked me after she gave me the first dose of Cytotec, and I was 1 centimeter dilated and about 40% effaced, which I was a little bit sad to hear that since I was already past my due date and I was doing some things to kind of start the process of labor naturally at home. So I was hoping that I was farther along than that. At 5 a.m. they checked me again and I was 2 centimeters dilated, about 50% effaced, and they gave me the second dose of the Cytotec through my IV. And at that point I was already feeling the contractions. They were getting a little bit stronger and they were becoming more painful. And my nurse gave me a drug. I don't remember the name of it, but she told me that the drug would work for exactly 1 hour just so I could take a little nap. She suggested that I take a nap since it was already 5 a.m. I hadn't slept all night. She knew that I was going to need the rest before active labor started or before things got more intense in the morning.
Go to sleep. Go to sleep.
I love you.
I love you. Current situation. Trying to fall asleep.
So I did take it and I fell asleep for exactly 1 hour. It worked like a miracle. I didn't feel any pain during that 1 hour, even though the contractions were still going. My nurse was monitoring me on the screen. There was a switch of nurses that happened during that time frame when I was taking my nap. And so when I woke up from the nap, I immediately started feeling the contractions again, and they were strong and they were painful. It was a very sharp pain near like where my bladder is. It was almost like a period cramp, but probably times like 100. I don't know. It was just so intense. And so my nurse came back in and I asked her, is there any way that I can get the epidural? At that point, it was about 7:30 in the morning. The new nurse that came in, she literally laughed at me when I asked for the epidural, and she told me that I was only 2 centimeters dilated and that I was just gonna have to feel pain and have to endure it. Even though she didn't check me, she just assumed I was still 2 centimeters dilated from when they had checked me at 5 a.m. And when she walked out of the room, I remember looking at Kevin and telling him I'm not gonna make it. Like, I don't know how I'm going to do this if I'm only 2 centimeters dilated. And I was in so much pain already. I really felt defeated in that moment. I felt like I wasn't going to be able to do it. I wanted the epidural already. And when she told me that, that was really hard to hear, because in that moment, I was not trusting my body, which I wish I would have, and I learned so much from it, but I wasn't trusting my body. I was trusting what somebody else was telling me about my body instead of trusting myself. I did have some birth affirmations on my phone that I was going through, and I was having Kevin read them to me as I was literally in tears, just feeling like, I don't know if I can do this. And I think those birth affirmations and some Bible verses did help, but I was still feeling very defeated at that point. Little did I know in that moment that I was actually already progressing very quickly, which was why my contractions were so painful. I was trying to find a way to make myself comfortable, so I was switching between sitting on the toilet. I had this feeling like I had to go poop, but I couldn't. I just like had this feeling, but I think it was just all of the pressure from the baby coming down. And so I was switching between the toilet, the bed, and the medicine ball, and I just could not get comfortable. I couldn't find a position that would relieve the pain. Within about 30 minutes, I was on the toilet and my mucus plug came out, and I immediately could tell that it was the mucus plug. I had heard of that term before. I wasn't really sure exactly what that would look like, but it was just very big, very obvious to me. I could feel in my body that things were progressing. So immediately I told Kevin to get the nurse, and then I moved back to the bed and we were waiting for the nurse to come. And I remember sitting on the bed and I felt this gush of water. Like, I felt like I had peed on myself, and my bedding and my sheets were all wet. And so I told Kevin, I think my water just broke, and I will never forget his face. He was like in shock and he didn't know what to do, and the nurse hadn't come yet. So he like went into the hallway and was trying to ask for the nurse, which, mind you, this was during COVID and all of the procedures. So they told him to go back into the room. So we were just sitting there and the contractions were continuing to get stronger and stronger. I was in so much pain. I remember like squeezing Kevin's hand and he was trying to help me breathe, but it was not working. All of the breathing techniques that I had watched on YouTube and tried to prepare for were just like out the door at that point. It was immediately into like survival mode for me with each contraction. It was about 9 a.m. when the nurse came back in. I told her how much pain I was in, and I told her that my water broke, and so she checked me. She told me that I was 5 centimeters dilated and that she was going to go ahead and put in for the epidural, and she left our room right away. Within about 10 minutes, with every contraction, I literally started screaming. Like, I would let out this scream with every contraction. It was like a movie, and it was probably not the best way to cope with my contractions. Definitely, if I have another baby, I will be a little bit more prepared for coping with the contractions. But honestly, mentally, I was just thinking that I was going to get the epidural by this point and that I wasn't going to feel contractions that were this strong. So it was like a movie scene. My husband was standing next to me and he didn't even know what to do. He was trying to help me breathe and kind of calm myself with every contraction, but it was getting so strong so quickly. And so a few other nurses rushed in and they were like, what's the matter? What's going on? Why is she screaming? And my nurse came in and she told the other nurses, she's only 5 centimeters dilated. It's just because it's her first baby. She's not used to the pain. I'll put in for the epidural. And she kind of just brushed me off. Some of the other nurses, actually 1 or 2 of them, stayed in the room and were kind of just like moving things around. I think they could just see like how much pain I was in and see like how quickly things were progressing. I think that was the point too where I was starting to realize that something was happening very quickly in my body, and I just knew that. And I remember thinking like, this can't be normal. Like the amount of pain, the amount of pressure, and how quickly my contractions were coming, something felt off. And I started asking for my doctor, even though she was telling me that I was only 5 centimeters dilated. I was like, please call my doctor. I think my doctor needs to come. I want her to check me. And within a few minutes, the nurse came back in and she told me that she was gonna have to check me again. And I didn't want that. I wanted my doctor to check me, but finally I agreed. I let her check me, and she told me that I was 8 centimeters dilated. Mind you, just a few minutes before was when she checked me and told me that I was 5 centimeters dilated. So within about 20 minutes, I had gone from 5 centimeters to 8 centimeters. And I will never forget her face when she told me I was 8 centimeters. I could just see like she was shocked, and she kind of started panicking and was telling other nurses to go in the room and to start getting things ready. So a bunch of nurses came in. I think it was probably like 4 nurses, maybe 5, but it felt like a bunch of nurses, and they were just moving things around, putting the bed away, getting this little table ready. And I told them, I need to push. I felt so much pressure, and it was such a natural feeling that I just knew that he was ready to come out. So I started telling the nurses, I need to push. I need to push this baby out. And every contraction, I was still screaming, trying to hold it in, trying to make it through each contraction. The nurses actually told me, wait, don't push yet. Wait for your doctor, which was such a crazy feeling because it's so natural for your body to want to push the baby out. So then someone telling you to hold the baby in, I was like, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to keep this baby in. Thankfully, my doctor actually worked at that hospital, so she was able to come to my room within a few minutes. I think she got there within about 10 minutes, and those probably felt like the longest 10 minutes of my life. The doctor came in, immediately she checked me, and she silenced the room, and she just like took control of the room so beautifully, which is what I needed. She calmed everything down because there were so many noises and just different people talking to me, telling me different things, moving things around. So she kind of just silenced everything, and she very calmly told me, I'm so sorry, we're not going to be able to wait for the epidural. This baby is ready to come out. I can feel him. It's time to push. And I remember asking her how much longer. And she told me, it's up to you and your baby at this point. And I think in that moment, my mindset completely changed. I was like, okay, I got this. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna push this baby out. It's between me and my baby. And I was really able to just like hone in and focus on Jaden, myself, getting the baby out. So my husband was standing at one side. They gave him one of my legs to hold, and then I had 2 nurses on my other leg. When they put my legs up and my doctor was standing in front of me, the first contraction I pushed, and then another contraction came, I pushed again, and within 3 contractions my baby was out. And I remember actually during that 3rd contraction seeing my husband's face, and he, I guess, had gotten a glimpse of Jaden, and so he saw a little bit of his head, and he just had so much joy on his face that I looked at him, and it gave me so much encouragement to keep going and keep pushing. And I pushed him out in one big push, and then I had my little Jaden.
Hi, baby. How you doing, mommy?
Okay.
Yeah?
A little bit of pain.
Look at that little nug.
Hi, buddy. Good morning. There is something that I need to share though from all of this. When I met Jaden, my heart was so full of joy. Like in that moment, all of the pain that I went through was just so worth meeting him. But after I had given birth, after I had breastfed him for the first time and they had checked him and all of that, I remember feeling upset and feeling like I was not heard during my birth. I remember feeling like I knew that my body was progressing, but the nurse that was working with me kept constantly like putting me down and making me feel like I was crazy when really I knew that my body was progressing and that Jaden was coming a lot quicker than they thought he was. And that nurse was wheeling me over to the recovery room. And I remember just praying and praying, like, Lord, let this not take the joy that I feel in this moment, and praying that I would be able to forgive her, because in that moment I was having a really hard time. I felt like I was just so in shock of everything that had just happened. I wasn't sure how to process it. And even in a few weeks after the birth, it took me a lot of time to process it. I would just replay the whole thing in my head, and I would think to myself, I should have advocated for myself more. I should have trusted my body. And it took me some time to really heal from that. And honestly, looking back, I am so thankful things happened exactly the way that they did. I would not change it for the world. I think that this taught me, one, that I am strong, and just taught me so much about how incredible God made our bodies to be, and how incredible and beautiful the natural birthing process is. Even though it wasn't what I was expecting or what I originally wanted, I am just so grateful that I was able to experience that, able to have a natural birth, able to have a fast birth. And I know that God was holding me and protecting me through that. And I know that's not everyone's story, but it did still take some time for me to have healing and to process from all of that. I think that birth is such a huge thing, and it can take such a mental and physical toll on women, that I think it's just so important to talk about. And I know that people have experienced a lot more traumatic and scary and damaging birthing stories. Not everyone has a beautiful birthing story. So I think it's important that we talk about it and that we support each other as women, and teach people also how to treat moms during the birthing process. That's my story, guys. If you have any specific questions about natural births, about anything that I learned from it, any questions that you guys have about my birth story, let me know below, and I would love to share with you guys. I think that there were some things that I had done in the days prior to giving birth that helped with the whole birthing process and helped me have a very fast birth. So if you are interested in hearing those things, let me know in the comments below. I'll do another video on that. If you haven't already, I would love for you to subscribe to my channel to watch more motherhood and lifestyle videos. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, like, and comment. It helps my channel a lot. And I will see you guys in my next video.